Hello Internet, welcome to Techno Geeks Corner. So today's episode we're going to be answering the question, does how much I actually spend on my HDMI cable actually have to do anything about its quality? We'll answer that question today. So when you go shopping for your latest game console, have you ever been interrupted by one of those people? And then you end up spending a lot of money on the most expensive cable that you can find because they said it's going to improve everything that has to do with your whole display, your whole frame rate, your refresh, and improve your entire quality of life. But is that actually a true fact? So back in the days of analog, we end up having things like what I call RCA, or what you guys know as composite. We end up also having VGA and many other different kinds of cables. These are the days of analog signals. So you know, the kind that you have the wavelength going like that. The thing about those days is that analog, there's a wide range coming from 0 to 9, and cables differentiated very much on how the manufacturer actually puts it together. The grade of copper can differentiate a lot between manufacturers. So at that point in time, there was actually a great difference between the quality of the cable versus its performance. Not to mention also length of the cable can also still be kind of a bottleneck. Fast forward to today, we have what's known as digital standards. So it's either on or off, 1 or 0. Meaning the cable works in kind of like a handshake method. So meaning it's either good enough or not good enough. When a cable is classified as good enough, it doesn't matter how much you spent on a cable, that cable is going to give you the same amount of performance as the cable that was $10 or $22,000. And yes, I have actually found a cable for $22,000, an HDMI cable. Yeah. Just gonna let that sink in there. Now the thing is that another thing that differentiates a lot of major cable brands is a factor of the gold plating around the actual tip, the carbon fiber finish, the nylon weaving across, which makes the cable more rigid or more beautifully built. These are more like bling icons rather than actual performance things, as the whole manufacturing process on making an HDMI cable has pretty much been 100% standardized through everybody. Everybody uses the same grade of copper, everybody uses the same grade of connections. Sure, some connections do last longer than others, but the point is that it's pretty much the same whether you bought it from the dollar store or whether you end up going to Best Buy and spending a couple $100, or if you use that provider that sells at $22,000. Honestly, my recommendation, stick to something that is somewhere, not El cheapo, but somewhere in between, somewhere around the $30 range. That way, you get a decently looking cable. It's going to be decent if you have to unplug it and plug it back in. It's going to hold up to regular wear and tear. See, in the age of digital communications, the HDMI cable works on something known as the handshake method. So what that basically means, that a cable is either good enough or not good enough. If it's good enough, you're going to get a full feed through. No interruptions on your gameplay, as long as the console or your computer or your source can end up providing data through the chain. In a cable that's not good enough, what you're going to feel is absolutely no feed at all. See, the one thing that's actually going to affect your video performance, I guess you could call it, your frame rate, your display, is the actual software that's installed on the ports. So being the source port, for example, your home game console, and the port that's actually on your TV. If you bought a 4K TV recently, or ever, you'll notice that there's only one port that is actually compatible with 4K. This is where all the cooling is put, so therefore it can actually get the 4K resolution and not necessarily get super hot cooking the rest of the TV. Not the actual cable itself. What I recommend to most people is pick up something in the middle of the mix. So basically something that's not super El Cheapo, but not super expensive. I usually recommend the $30 range because you can get some pretty nice, decent priced cables for around that price that are going to be standing up to quality if you have to unplug them multiple times. But at the same time, have a little bit of that bling factor. Now, just to clarify, doesn't matter how much you spend on your cable, this will not affect your video quality, contrary to what many people claim. Anyways, thank you very much for watching today's video. If you like what you see, click that subscribe button down on the link below. And don't forget to also click the bell icon. This will notify you of any future videos that do get posted on this channel, as there's going to be quite a few of them coming up in the next couple months. Anything that you want me to explain, definitely leave a comment. That way I can look it up and definitely fix that question for you. That way I know which other kind of videos that I need to shoot for you guys, as I'm all yours.